The Dice Tower, episode 622.
G is for games. I got Grover. Who's George?
Oh, it was that song about the two different types of G sounds. There's G Grover, G George, and they did this song about how they were both G names and the different kinds of G's.
How many people do you think? How many people do you think have all these songs memorized?
Well, I do. So one.
Well, I'm sure you're amusing that audience.
Yes, I
am. Hey, folks, if you're listening to this, it might be too late to sign up for Dice Tower West, but I hope not. But if you haven't, do it. It's open, dicetowerwest.com, because I know that the tickets were much percentagely sold out. I don't know what the percentage is at this point in time, but I know 75% at least, and that does not leave many tickets left, and we would like you to come. Please come. So
yes.
Meanwhile, Eric and I are preparing for Dice Tower Retreat. We will be there. Dice Tower Retreat, sponsored by Restoration Games. We'll be there tomorrow.
Well, yes, as of the posting of this. Maybe. We hope. Tom just told me there's a hurricane coming.
I'm surprised Eric didn't hear about it. That shows how Connecticut-centered he is.
Or maybe that I've just been busy and haven't watched the news.
Yeah, okay. So we're recording this Thursday. What is the date? August 29th.
29th, yeah.
It's supposed to hit as of you all listening to this. So... yay, but it's not. It's supposed to hit much, much north of here, but the cone is big. We're in the cone, so we'll have to wait and see. I would prefer that it does not hit us.
A lot of things can happen in the next several days. Well, yes. A lot of my wife's coworkers work in Florida as well, and they were all doing the same thing you've been doing, Tom, getting ready and visiting the grocery store while there's still something on the shelf.
Well, then how did you not know?
She told me after I went and said, "Hey, Tom's expecting a hurricane." She's like, "Yeah, duh." So
I like your wife. She seems astute.
She's on the ball
and succinct.
Yes.
Alrighty, folks. Eric, you are going to another convention, I see. Here.
I am. A little bit after the retreat, the very end of September 27th through the 29th, I will be at FallCon in Stamford, Connecticut. This is the same group that runs ConCon, and in fact, it's the same website, concon.com. That's CONNCON.com.
Wow, that is a mouthful.
I know, but it's a 3-day, small convention, small footprint con, but it's a really great, lively group of people, about 50% scheduled events and 50% open gaming. I'm bringing my kids. I'll be running several games, including one of the exit games, the double-size one, the Catacombs of Horror. I'm going to run that. And a Merchant of Venus. I have one slot that I'll be teaching that game. My son's teaching several. My younger son's going to be running things for the first time in the kids and families area. It's going to be a great time. I'm looking forward to it.
And I'm going to be, the week before that, I'll be in Iceland at Midgard, which is the Icelandic convention. Me and Z Garcia are going to be there, so we're really looking forward to seeing that, being
cool.
there. Yeah, and
that's... went there last year.
I did, and it's only 2.5 weeks away, and it's just washed out of my head right now for two reasons. One is the hurricane a little bit, but the other is the library. Ooh, I've been having so much fun with this library. I don't want to go into it again because we talked about it ad nauseum last time. But another, I'd say this week, 100 games showed up. So,
whoa.
Yeah, I know it. Today, we got piles of games from Portal, from Board and Dice, from Game Salute, and that might be all we got today. Plus a few other classics. We got Princess of Florence, because that needs to be in the library.
Sure.
And Trois.
Ooh.
Although you might not need to play Trois anymore, so...
Why not?
Well, because the new Black Angel is like a reworking of that. So maybe you'll like that better. You should probably play that at the retreat if you make it.
I do want to play Black Angel. That's one I've missed out on so far.
Well, let's talk about some games here for those who are listening. And we have some really cool games. Well, mostly really cool games to talk about. Let's start with a mind-twisting bender from Eric.
Sure. This was one of the talked about party games coming out of Gen Con from CGE. It's Letter Jam. This is a cooperative word game where the object is to guess the letter cards that are in front of each player. You're actually given a group of letter cards that spell some sort of word. You get 4 of them, and they're handed to you, and you put them face down, scramble them up, put them face down in front of you. And the object is for everybody to guess what their letters are. One at a time, you're going to flip up one of them away from you. You don't get to see what letter is face up. So now you can see everybody's letter except for yours. And even depending on the number of players, some dummy letters might be up as well. Then you have this discussion phase. It's like, who has the best clue right now? You figure out who has the best clue, the one that's going to help the most people. It's this weird discussion phase where you only have certain rules that you can follow. You can only give so much information. You decide what you're going to do as far as who gives the clue. Somebody gives a clue that will help out as many people as possible by using as many of their letters as possible. But rather than speak the clue out loud, you take these poker chips that are numbered 1 through 8 or 9 if you get the promo, and you place them down. So if I'm spelling out trees, I put the 1 by the T, and then the 2 by the R, and then the 3 and the 4 next to an E, and then an S gets the number 5. Now, if the chips are in front of my hidden letter, that's going to give me information about what the word is. I write down on my little sheet what the letters I know are in the numbered slots. And maybe, if it's a really good clue, I can infer what my letter is. But it may only narrow it down slightly. So I might write down what possibilities it could be and hope for another clue that's going to narrow things down. If I do think I know what that letter is, I can say, I'm moving on, and I put my letter face down. I think it's actually 5 letters that you have in front of you. And I put it face down, and I move on to the next letter. Once I have figured out all of my letters, and once everybody has figured out all of their letters, then we have to make a word from all the letters that we think it is, still face down, and scramble those around and reposition them. And if, as you flip them up at the end of the game, if you have formed a word, you have succeeded in the game. There's a scoring, but I don't think it's worth it. I think it's more of a, did you do it? Yay, good job.
Excellent. I am so glad to hear you say that because the scoring for this game is ridiculous.
It is. And there's a couple of things. So I really like the concept of Letter Jam. It is a mind-bending sort of cooperative experience, and I enjoy the basic tenets of the game. What I'm not so happy with is this mechanism of who gets to give a clue when. There are these little tokens, clue tokens that you get, and they're arranged in some sort of flower pattern at the very beginning of the game. And there's this convoluted rule about who gets what tokens, and you can't have too many tokens before other people have all the tokens. And if you run out of tokens, you lose the game. So it is sort of a timer, but it's also a mechanism for making sure one player doesn't give all the clues. And sort of spreading out who is giving the clues.
Yeah, but
in the
you know
game.
what? If one person's giving all the clues, you're not going to do well anyway.
Right, which is why I don't think this mechanism really needs to be
Honestly,
as
they
complicated
should
as it is.
Right, I agree 100% with Eric. There should just be a certain number of clue tokens, and you should ignore the scoring completely.
Yeah. This one, I mean, this is a tricky game to grasp because I've heard a description of this several times. Hopefully, I made it clear enough that you sort of know what I'm talking about. But I've had people explain this game to me, and it didn't make sense until I opened the game up and laid it out and actually started doing it. It is a sort of a mind bender of a game. Now, I like it, and I think it's going to see some playtime. I just wish that clue token thing was a little less obtuse.
Happily, I feel the same way about this as with most party games that are like this. I really like the game like Eric. I think it's really fun, really involved, but just ignore the scoring. It's a simple thing to do. And the clue tokens, you can just say whatever. There's red and green tokens. That's how many clue tokens you have. Use them.
Yeah.
I get that they were doing it, but I think that's both those things are going to hurt them in the long run for getting new people involved. I'm like, you know what? Never mind. Just let's all give clues to each other.
Mm-hmm.
And it's very
also,
clever.
don't shuffle the cards when you first open your copy.
Well, that doesn't matter that much. Why would that matter?
If you actually look through each letter once you open up the deck, you'll know why. But if you shuffle it, never mind.
I shuffled mine.
Never mind.
I already know that there's something there, but I didn't care
it spells
because
out a message.
That's not why I'm playing the game. But
right.
That's why I play some games. So that segues into Adventure Games: The Dungeon, which is a really, really generic title, come to think of it.
Yes, it is.
Adventure Games is a new series of games from Thames and Cosmos. And it is a non-destructible escape room type game. All right?
Okay.
And so in the box, now I've only played one. There's two of them. One's the dungeon. The other is, I forget what it is. It's about being trapped in a science lab or whatever. And in the dungeon, you wake up in prison with much of your memory gone. But they are replayable games, and they're split into 3 parts. And the box says they're 90 minutes each. I would argue they're about 45 minutes each. But I will also say that the game has an app, which I have not yet played with, that will read a lot of things to you. I think once it's done, are you working on this, Eric?
I am not.
Okay. I gotta ask that about all this stuff these days. And so that might add to the time. But that being said, the way the game works is you put out a card on the table. So I'm going to talk specifically about the dungeon one. I don't know about the lab one, but it's played pretty much the same way. You put out a card on the table. Each person has a character card. You have a certain amount of life, but the life is essentially not really a big deal. It's just to count victory points at the end to see how well you did. And on this card is a bunch of numbers. You read a paragraph from this big book, not a big book, but a pretty decently sized book full of all different paragraphs and stuff. You read a paragraph about the room. It tells you what you see. And then on the room card are a bunch of numbers. So let's say there's a hole in the wall, and next to it says 203. So I look up paragraph 203 in this book. I read it. It says there's a hole in the wall. You see a gold object in it. You want to grab it? Go to 407. So I'm like, all right, I'll go to 407. I go to 407, and look, I found a key. And so now I go through an item deck, and I take item 76, and it's a key. So now I'm like, whoa, there's a door there. The door is, 402. The key is 77. So I look in the book. I look up the number 77204. Assuming I got all those numbers right. Again, if the door is 204 and the key is 77, then I say 77204. So I look that up in the book. So it's a little bit like Unlock, but you don't add the numbers. You just put them in front of each other.
Interesting.
And then it will say, you stuck your key in the lock, but the door is electrified, and you get a shock, lose 1 health point, or whatever. Things like that will happen. Sometimes you might have 2 items. You're like, I have water and I have sand. Water is item 16 and sand is 19. So I go to 16, 19, and it says now you have a pile of wet sand. Again, I'm just making stuff up. This isn't what's in the game, but that's how the game works. And eventually you might open the door, and then you'll put out another room card. And then you guys can move around through this dungeon or whatever, interacting with objects. You might find an object in one room that you need to go to another room. This is very, very, very similar to the point-and-click adventures on a computer. It's just done so in a cooperative way where you read through a book. And my kids love this. So did I. I mean, it's definitely about a story. And there are some puzzles in the game. The puzzles are not nearly as complex or difficult as puzzles in an exit game, also from Thames and Cosmos. And I will say, because I played a lot of exit and unlock games, I got most of the puzzles pretty quickly.
Okay.
Right. But I was like, all right, kids, what do you think? Maybe you should turn that card sideways or whatever, it might be. But you don't necessarily see everything, and you might do something that causes a room to collapse or something like that. So you might not get everything. And at the end of the game, you get a score about different items that you might have collected or not used or whatever, or different things that you might have done. And the story does have some very distinct different endings to it. I really like it a lot. and it's also replayable, so it will be at the Dice Tower Retreat, so people can check it out there. And it's a really good story. Now, the dungeon one is 12 and older. The lab one that I have, it looks like some sort of, you're in a lab and the military's doing something evil. I don't know. It's something like that. That one says 16 and up, so I don't know. But the 12 and up one, I mean, honestly, you could play it with 8 and up, I think, really. There's a lot of reading, but again, when the app's involved, maybe the app will read it for you. And I would actually probably prefer to play with the app, because if you're like using a key, and the key is item 25, and so I turn in a book to 25204 to use the key on the door.
Yep.
And I might notice that 25205 has something good. I mean, you can like deliberately not look at the paragraphs above and below the ones that you're reading, but you might see something. I try not to. So there's that. But with an app, I'm hoping you just type in the number and it will read it to you. That would also be thematic, as long as I get a good reader. I got an early copy, so that's probably why the app is not available yet. When it is, I hope it's done really nicely with good voiceover and stuff. That would be awesome.
Yeah, that would be cool.
So I'm really pumped about this. I really like it. It's just fantastic, and I like that it's reusable. It takes the exit games and adds a story to them. Honestly, it's more fun than Time Stories in that regard. I don't have to go back and do it again.
Okay.
So that's Adventure Games The Dungeon.
That's cool. Just a quick side note: we played one of the new unlocks, the insert coin that's in the new Heroic Adventures box. It's a video game
that's a
theme.
fun one.
It's really fun, and it uses AR really well with the app, and you aim it at cards.
Right, yeah.
Really cool stuff. But when it was all over, my youngest asked if, because he had to read some of the cards in Unlock, if that counted for his reading for the night for school. 'Cause he's supposed to read a certain amount of time. I'm like, did you read all the cards? I read some of the cards. Yeah, no. Read your book.
What? That was an opportunity for you to get him to play more Unlock games with you.
I should. Okay, maybe the next time if he reads all the cards.
Summer child, if you're listening, I would have done it had you been my child.
Next for me is a game called Bricks. Brikks. This is a roll and write from Stronghold Games.
A roll and write? I bet.
Yes.
Does it use Tetris shape somehow?
It does. I mean, there are a lot of Tetris-y games out right now, and I think Bricks just might be the most Tetris-y of the Tetris games I have played. It even looks like an arcade machine as you play it. In Bricks, you have a you take one writing sheet that is the one you're going to be using and placing bricks on the board, and you take another one and just turn it upside down because it has this array of possible die results. And on your turn, you're going to roll both a color die and a number die. There are 6 columns on this grid and 4 columns, 6 rows. That's it. And so then you've got, say, the blue number 3, and you look on your chart, and that is the squiggly piece, the 2 and 2 S curve piece. And it's in a certain position on your grid. You can spend energy to rotate that piece, sort of move it left or right.
Thematically, that's moving your thumb a little.
Moving your thumb a little. You can drop it from any point on your grid, and you can even do the little shift after it gets through a hole and then shift it over to the left or right. That's all free. You can do that however you want. But if you want to rotate the piece, you spend energy to shift the column that it's in. There's like a little marker that you place to begin with. All right, it's on blue 3, and I can spend energy to move it 1 or 2 spaces left or right, which effectively rotates the piece and makes it in a better position for me. You are, of course, trying to fill in complete rows. You are also trying to cover dots on your board with the proper color piece. So that blue S-curve piece, if I cover up a blue dot on the board, I'm going to earn more energy, which will allow me to do more stuff. It also unlocks some more scoring opportunities. As you get higher and higher on your grid, the bonuses for completing rows get higher, and eventually you're going to run out of space, and you can't really do anything anymore. You also have the ability to not place a piece 3 times over the course of the game, but the more of those bombs you don't use, the more points they're worth. And that's about it. I like the, do I live with the piece as it arrives on the board, or do I rotate or spend? If you spend enough energy, you can actually choose any piece you want to go on the board. So do I save my energy to get that straight 4 piece when I really want it, when I built the board just right? It really felt like I was playing Tetris. But as someone said on Twitter, at some point, why aren't you just playing Tetris? Still,
That is exactly what we said.
I like the game. I think between this and Royale, I think those are both really strong analogs to Tetris. I like them both. I think they're both very, very strong. And I enjoyed Bricks, but again, you can just play Tetris on your phone. Bricks, Brikks.
Unfortunately, the roll and write genre is so crowded at this point in time that a game really has to stand out. Did you know that they just announced Uno roll and write?
Did they?
And they also announced Blocus roll and write, and another game I can't remember, and then one based on not Phase 10, but Skipbo roll and write.
Really? Blocus I can see. I don't know about Skipbo. But okay. They're allowed, I guess.
I agree. All right, let's talk about Caravan. So Caravan is a game from Rio Grande Games. This is a game about camels in the desert and delivering goods from one spot to another. Now that may seem like a generic theme, and you're right. But it's actually a pretty clever but very simple game. You can play with 5 camels. Well, you can play with more camels if you're feeling nice to everybody. But you have 5 camels. On your turn, you have 4 actions. For an action, you can place a camel anywhere on the board. Or if it's on a cube and there's different areas on the board that will be seated with different color cubes, you can put the cube on the camel. Pick up that cube. You can also steal a cube from another camel in the same area, but you have to give them a stealing token, essentially, to do that. You only start the game with one of them, so unless people steal from you, you can't really steal back. You can steal once, right, until people steal from you. If you put your camel in a spot where someone else is a camel, that costs 2 of your actions. And then you can move a cube from a camel to another camel that's connected to it orthogonally in a contiguous row.
Orthogonally?
Orthogonally.
Okay.
When you know what I mean.
I was just making sure. I was making sure you knew what you meant.
As opposed to what other word? Anyhow. I'm hurricane hangry. No, so you can't move a camel that has a cube on it. That's the thing. So to get these cubes to the different locations, so a blue cube has to go to the blue city on the board. So you need to line up your camels and move it from one end of the line to the other end of the line. Then you move more camels to the end of the line and continue passing it down. And so you have 5 camels, you have to figure out the best way to do that. Every so often, though, when there's only 4 cubes left on the board that no one has picked up, a coin gets added to all those, so that if you do pick it up, you get a coin. So sometimes a cube that's really far from its city will have 4 or 5 coins. That's like 5 points. I might pick up that cube, but then I have to deliver it, which might take a long time. It's really simple and really tactical and a little mean. I like it. Caravan from Rio Grande Games.
Interesting. Last for me is a game called Time Chase. We talked about this in our Gen Con preview episode, and it was one I wanted to hunt down. Time Chase is from Renegade Games. It is a trick-taking card game with a time travel element. It's going to play over as many as 10 rounds, 10 rounds maximum. And each round is sort of a point in time. And there's a trump suit. I think there's 5 different suits. And numbers from 1 to 13, although you're going to remove cards if there are fewer players than the maximum. And there is a trump suit that's called it's some sort of word that is like the immovable. But
yeah,
it's
I don't remember what
it's
called.
Change it. It's got a weird term, but you can go back in time far enough to change this thing. So everybody starts out in the present. And the present is the current trick that is going to be fought over, and it's basic trick-taking rules. You have to follow suit if you can. Otherwise, you can play any card you want. And the highest card, or the highest trump suit card, is going to win the trick. And then you sort of save how that all worked. You put one card down that was the lead color, the card that was lead, and then the card that won the trick. And a little marker that says this player is the one that won the trick. You can then decide how many crystals, you get like an income of crystals, and you can spend some of these crystals on your time machine to go back in time. For every crystal you spend, you can go back one instance in history, and you all reveal this simultaneously, so you don't know who is staying in the present. I think you actually move forward into the present, you get your income, and then you can go back in time. So you could go back to the trick that was just played by paying 1 energy, or you could go farther back. You could even go all the way past all of the tricks to the immovable trump card and fight over that so that you change trumps in the future. And then once everyone has moved, so you may scatter around the board, leaving only one person competing over the present day trick. And then everybody else is fighting over stuff that already happened in the past. And then you work your way back from the farthest away trick, moving toward the present, and fight over all of the tricks that somebody is standing on. Sometimes only one person is standing there, and all they have to do is play one card that would now win the trick. Maybe they have a better card that they decided not to play back then. Maybe they've changed the trump, and they have a card that's now going to win the trick. And so they play that. They can take control of the trick. And you get back to the present, and maybe there's only one person standing there. They just play a card and they win.
I like to see someone try to figure this out from Eric's description.
It's imagine just a bunch of little tricks working their way across the table that is like a timeline. And you want to win 3 of them. If you, at some point at the end of a round, have all 3 of your tokens out on the board, you win. Of course, as people see you trying to do this, they're going to go back in time and try and fight you for it. But you can't always do that. It is an interesting challenge. Trying to decide what to fight over, when to stay put. The more of your tokens you have out on the board, the less income you get. Ordinarily, you get 2 crystals, but for each token you already have out on the board, each trick you have won, you get 1 fewer crystal. So eventually, you're not getting any more. And so you lack the ability to go back in time and change things or protect things from other players. I liked it. I don't, however, like it too much at 3 players. That's the minimum that this can be played at, and I think you need to have a few more to have more jockeying for position. With 3 players, it was way too common for us to just spread out entirely and not compete for any of the tricks. Someone would just go back in time far enough for a card that they could play. Yep, I took this one, and now I took this one over here, and I'm in the present, so I'll play a 2 and win it. So I wanted to see a little more interaction, but still, it's a neat mind bender of a trick-taking game. And if you like those styles of games, this one's a nice twist on the genre. Time Chase from Renegade.
Yeah, I've played this game. I like to play it some more before I kind of do a final opinion on it. I think it's really interesting. I don't know that interesting equals fun, no. No. I mean...
Yeah.
It's kind of the game that's intriguing, and I certainly thought a lot about it, but I'm not sure. All right. Last one I'm going to talk about is King's Dilemma. This is yet another legacy game that I've started. I've played it 5 times so far, and I'm really enjoying it, although it's more of a story game than anything else. In this game, you're all faction leaders in a kingdom. It's like... I think it's a fantasy kingdom, although there hasn't been too much fantastical stuff. So I'm not quite sure. But
it's just a kingdom?
Well, there's stuff that leans towards fantasy, and I don't know. But anyhow, there's a king. And at the beginning, he's like, the leading of a kingdom is the king's dilemma, blah, blah, blah. I just needed to make up a name for the game. All right. So each game, you're trying to win a game by getting a certain amount of points. You get the kingdom has stability, and then it has like these 5 markers that show how well you're doing in your wealth and your army strength and morale and science and things like that. And at the beginning of the game, you choose an agenda that basically you might pick opulence or something, and you want as many of these trackers to be as high as possible, or you might want them to be as low as possible. And you'll get points based on that. And the way you do that, you are each round of the game, you take some cards that you'll get at the beginning, and you'll reveal a card. And the card, this is like the first card we got in our game was, hey, some windmills were burned down by fires, and the farmers are having a hard time getting this grain. So we could rebuild those, but at the cost of funds from our treasury. And then it will show you, if you vote yes on this, should we build these back up for the farmers, that it probably, the finances of the kingdom will go down, but the morale will go up. And if we vote no, well, then we won't lose any finances, but morale might go down. So then everybody votes using a currency called power, and you can vote yes or no, or you can abstain, and you will abstain a lot. Why? Because the winning side puts all their power in the middle, and whoever abstains gets to split that power next time.
Okay.
Right, so you might abstain because there's a lot of power in the middle. And then whoever bids the most power on the winning side will flip the card over and show what happens. Now, here's the thing. The game starts with like 4 cards, and you shuffle those, and you'll reveal one and do that card.
Okay.
But one of the cards, depending on which side you pick, will tell you to open up an envelope, and this will add maybe 5 more cards to the mix. And so different cards will cause different things to happen, which means, I think, I'm not going to see everything in the game.
Right.
And that's okay by me. I mean, I'm going to open up and look at it anyway. But it's really intriguing. So we talk about the choices, although I will say I find it fascinating. A lot of the choices I talk about, and I'm like, well, this is what I think should happen, but I don't really want it to happen because my agenda says otherwise, But it does bring up some pretty serious things. So, for example, a very rich merchant comes to the kingdom, and he brings with him his slave. And then we have to say, free the slave, demand him to free the slave or not. Because if we don't, maybe he'll put some of his riches in the kingdom. And besides, it's his kingdom, and who are we to interfere? Now, this discussion about this is a pretty adult discussion, right? And this is the kind of discussions that you might find. We found some great metal for making weapons, but we could also use it to make medical things. And so some of these things are in the game, and you may make decisions that go against your moral code realistically. And you might do it because your agenda points you the other way. I don't know. The game is decent, the voting game. The story is really fun. It's really fun to see a result of what we have. We've had a cult start up because of something we did. And the games are pretty short. They're like 30 minutes or so. I guess they could go longer if you argued for a long time about each vote.
Right.
Because after a certain number of cards are played or whatever, the game will end. You add up your scores. And then there's also stickers that are put on the board, and a few new rules might show up. We found a couple of them so far that let us do a few other options and things. And you can bribe each other with money. There's another currency, money. You can use that to bribe other people to vote the way you do. So I really like it. I know some people will be put off because you won't see a lot of the content in the game. But like I said, we played 5 games, and I think I counted the number of spots in the book. It looks like there's 19, I think. So I don't know. So me and Jason played this with Melody and another guy the first 3 games. The one guy who we were playing it with, he said, I don't know if I want to play this. And then after the first game, he said, well, we should try a second game. We can't just play once.
Right.
And then we played a third game. Then Melody went to college again. Okay. And then the other guy didn't show up. So we grabbed 2 other people and played it with them. And they were able to jump in. We had to explain, hey, this is what's going on here because we made these decisions in the past. But they both were able to catch on pretty quickly. However, when we were done with the 2 games, they said, yeah, that was a fun story, but it was more story than games, so they're going to beg out next time. So I said, all right, Jason, we'll have to find some more suckers. We'll just keep playing with people till we finish this thing. But I really like it. That's King's Dilemma. It's from Horrible Games, a horribly named company, because their games are usually anything but horrible.
Yeah.
Really like that one.
So when you do swap somebody out, do their agendas change, or do they basically adopt the persona of the person who left?
Well, you get a different agenda every game.
Ah, okay.
So you can pick it. And there's also different goals you're trying to accomplish. And if you check those off, you might get special abilities. So far in 5 games, I have not accomplished a single goal. In fact, I haven't won yet, which is annoying because you get to name the new king. And Orc of Mork has been king. Well, Orc of Mork 2 and Orc of Mork 3 have been kings in a row. And it's really annoying. They were finally dethroned by somebody else, but I still have not won. But if you pick certain agendas, you can check off things on your faction, and so your faction will kind of tilt towards maybe a specific type of way to think. So I've been kind of trying to tank the kingdom, actually, thanks to my agendas. It's hard to do that too when I'll make a convincing argument for the other side. Like there was a bunch of cows that were sick, so I killed them all. I mean, that's the right thing to do.
Right.
But it did decrease morale for a while because, in the long term, we got rid of the disease. But in the short term, a lot of dead cows.
Yeah.
And so now I have a public agenda that says if the food token is the lowest token, I'll lose points because people will remember it's my fault and they'll blame me.
Interesting.
I'm not so fascinated by that part. But anyway, that's King's Dilemma. Lots of fun.
Very cool.
Hey,
just a quick mention that, since Mandy talked about the Undo games last week, I just want to say that I'm like the only one that hasn't talked about them yet, but she sent me all of her copies of Undo, so I'll be getting to that at some point.
Well, that kind of shows how much she liked them.
You can't really replay them once you've played them there.
I would argue
you already know what happens.
I would argue you can't play them the first time. But,
yeah.
All right, well, before we jump to Jeff and his smartness, I do want to mention that if you want to watch us record these live, usually we do it every other Thursday night on our Facebook group, so keep an eye out for that. But I will say that that may not always be the case, so just keep an eye out for that.
You never know when something might prevent that from happening.
All right, let's listen to Jeff.
Saving.
Well, hello, those watching on Facebook. All 19 of you. 18. As soon as I said hello, someone left. 17. What? We're not done with the show. We're just pausing. What do you do?
They only needed to see one thing.
They're here just to hear about the games, not the questions.
Yep. Now, in the past, you said that sometimes comments from the live chat will show up on in our discussion if people yell loudly enough, I think.
That's true. If someone actually says something or comments, it might show up in the thing. So keep an eye out for that. All right, I'm going to move this like this. I'm going to move this over here so it doesn't interfere.
Would you like to talk about Mr. Engelstein?
No, let's just jump right to questions, if that's okay, unless you wanted to say something.
Well, I mean, I did hear about this Matchbox thing and considered building it one time, but then I saw how many pieces it required and said no. But he basically touched on that in the segment.
All right. I will go first. Here.
Okay.
Tell me when you're ready.
I am.
Eric says, I'm curious about game rethemes. The one that comes to mind is Love Letter. I've seen dozens of versions on Board Game Geek and multiple versions for sale on Amazon. My questions pertain to the legality of this practice. To those, the ones making alternative versions, publishers purchase a licensing agreement, or can anyone make their own version and sell them if you change a few rules? Is that what makes it okay? Okay, so first of all, just to clarify, as far as I know, every single one of these versions is made by the same company, which was initially AEG and now is Z-Man. So what you might see is that there's a Z-Man copy in AEG, but as far as I know, no one has made an unauthorized version of Love Letter.
Right. Although someone probably has made an unauthorized version of Love Letter. In fact, I'm sure they have. You just can't sell it.
Well, actually, Eric is incorrect on this.
Well, you're technically not allowed to do it at all.
No, you're technically allowed to do it. I could copy another game, change a few minor things, and sell it and get away with it legally. And I know this because it's been done. Bang,
I guess that's true.
Bang was straight up copied by a Chinese company which has sold several 100,000 copies of this ripoff in China. Also, I met this company and they're very nice people, but they still did this. And so when it was taken to court, the court said you can't really copyright these mechanisms for the game, and so there it is, and so you can do it legitimately, but morally that's a different story. I want to be really clear. I'm not saying you should, recommending that you should. In fact, I'm recommending that you don't. Now the question is, and we've talked about this in the past, is how far is enough?
As far as changing?
Oh, sure. I remember when Thunderstone first came out, and people were like, you're copying Dominion.
Yeah.
And
yeah, because the major mechanism was the same.
Sure. And now that major mechanism's done everywhere, right? A roll and write game comes out, and there's another roll and write game. So now you can copyright the theme of a game to some degree. Like if someone makes a game with an IP and all, and I copy that straight out right, that I can get in trouble for.
Yes.
Also remembering that the Dice Tower is neither Eric or myself are lawyers, and anything we say is not considered legal advice, blah, blah, blah.
Sure.
So anyway, that's our question from Eric. Quick question from Dan, who's watching us live. What's the biggest threat to you in your games and homestead? Humidity, roaches, gators, or scorpions? Humidity for sure, but that's why we store all our games in a climate-controlled thing. I wouldn't even consider storing them anywhere else.
Yeah, I hadn't really considered that because a lot of the storage units up here are not necessarily climate-controlled.
That's correct. You must do it in Florida.
Yeah, that would be bad. Ben says, my wife beats me a lot, but really in a certain type of game. Seven Wonders Duel or Century Spice Road, for example. While discussing it, we determined that my playstyle would win in a longer game, while she goes for the quick points and triggers endgame. Any suggestions for games in that 30 to 90 minute range that play to my usual style so I can beat her? Or better yet, a game that allows us both our usual play but equal opportunity to win. Also, I want to play some heavier games, but play mostly with my wife. Robinson Crusoe is the heaviest I own, I guess. Any suggestions for games that would encourage her to go deeper, but perhaps have a lighter feel?
I don't even know how to answer this.
Yeah.
Like, if you want to play a deeper game, I guess I would start with cooperative games. I think cooperative, to me, is always a cool way to go deeper because you're working together. Well, the other thing, I don't know what to tell you. I don't understand if your wife's whooping you in Seven Wonders Duel, going for the quick points and trigger in the end game, that's not the only strategy in that game. So you got to be able to beat her. I don't know that there's I don't know how to answer this question. Like, there's a game that rewards both. Clank does, right? In Clank, you can run and grab a treasure and get out, or you can go in and get more treasures and still might win. Both work well. Oh, I'll say Clank.
That's true. I agree with that one. I like the games that allow one player to try and adjust the the pace of the game, but then there also needs to be a mechanism to slow that person down as well. And if you are going for the longer term strategy, to make that a viable one as well. But I can't think of another specific example.
Jillian in chat said sounds like he's looking for a point salad. Maybe that would work too. Alrighty. Next says Clayton says, if you had to play a game to the death, which game would you pick and why?
I
know my answer.
I mean, I would want to play one without a whole bunch of luck. One that I feel like I could. Boy, oh boy. Can I play against like newbies?
Let's say you don't know your opponent.
Oh my goodness. See, I think my best win percentage is Merchant of Venus, but the dice on that can hose you. And I would be really unhappy picking that as...
Oh, did you know I just added that to the library?
Did you?
For you.
Oh boy. I'm so excited. So do I not need to bring my copy to the retreat?
No, well, I got the Fantasy Flight one, so that's up to you.
Oh, okay. I might still bring my Avalon Hill. Anyway, back to the question. To the death.
To the death? No. I mean, to the pain.
Not chess. I would not want to play chess. Maybe some like abstract, maybe like Terrace.
I'm not sure who he's talking to anymore.
I don't know.
All right. I would pick Captain Sonar.
Oh.
Eric would have to help me, and I would pick two other people who have interest in keeping me alive. No, I'm serious. I don't want someone to sit in there and go, well, you know.
Okay. Yeah. All right. No, I like it.
It makes sense. Why would I pick people who want to see me go down?
No pressure, though. Oh yeah. If we don't win this, we lose Tom. So everybody, just play your best, okay?
I've only lost Captain Sonar once, and I didn't have a good navigator at the time, or maybe I did. I don't know, but I'm going to blame them.
Well, I appreciate the confidence on that one. The Game Mole says, what are your worst demo experiences? Not asking you to name names, but I was curious if you both had an experience that popped into your head that left a very bad taste in your mouth. In many reviews, I've seen reviewers warn if a game... Oh, this is a separate question.
Yeah.
I've seen... Do you want to answer this first?
Let's do them one at a time, because they're very different questions.
Yeah. Worst demo experiences. The only one that's popping into my head is one I had at Spiel, where the demoer was not very confident in the English, and so basically kept handing us the rule book to answer our own questions. I don't know if I've ever had the horror story, though, of just a really terrible demo experience because of the demo and not necessarily because of the game.
I have not had a really bad one either. The worst I had was not in a demo. Someone taught me Chaos in the Old World by reading the rulebook out loud. But that won't happen again because I would just say, you know what, I got this. And I would read the rulebook and teach the game. I have had people teach a game really slowly before and explain every detail. And I'm trying not to say, let's just get started, because that's, that's the generic thing that people say. But
yeah. I think my demo of Baseball Highlights 2045, is that the number? Was not very strong. They just weren't explaining it terribly well, and my mindset, I guess, wasn't where it needed to be. I did not see what everybody else sees in that game. But I wouldn't say that's terrible, just suboptimal.
That sounds like something you would get on your report at the end of the year. Eric's work this year has been suboptimal. My parents said, that means bad, Tom. You're in trouble. I'd be like, it doesn't sound that bad.
It's suboptimal. I could do better.
All right, you got some other questions here. Let's jump on these.
In many reviews, I've seen reviewers warn if a game is attacky or aggressive towards other players. All of us have probably seen someone become upset over a
Yes.
game after being attacked in some form. What is it about board games that seems to get people riled up? The idea of a family descending into chaos over a game of Monopoly is part of the public consciousness. Why is that? Time investment or having to look at your opponent in the eyes while they remove your pieces from the board?
Oh, it's just pride. That's really what it is. I mean, people are proud of, and their pride takes a hit if you lose a game, or if someone makes fun of you and all. It's not just games. This happens in sports. This happens in anything.
Yeah.
That people get mad over. I will say that games is not the leading cause of divorce in this country.
I don't think so.
No, I'm saying I think number one is finances, number two is kids or whatever it is. I don't think games is even on the list. So I don't think that board games get people riled up as any more of a thing than arguing over political differences it does, for example.
Yeah.
I think this is kind of just it's not a thing, really. Yes, people get upset over board games, but people get upset over a lot of things.
Sure. I think there's a sense of people messing with your stuff that feels like a more personal attack. If you've been building something up in a game and somebody comes along and, delays you or steals your stuff or knocks over the supply chain you were working on, that can feel a little bit more like a slap in the face than maybe other moves, more subtle moves against you, taking a card you wanted or something. But when something is taken from you or your pieces are removed, that it can feel a little more in your face in this case.
Maybe.
If you had to get a tattoo of one game component or character, what would it be and why?
So I'm assuming for purposes of this question that I can't do anything for the Dice Tower, because I've thought briefly about getting a Dice Tower tattoo and or one of our little Dice Guy tattoos. And then I think two things. Ouch, and it's permanent. That's what's always stopped me from getting a tattoo, is that it's permanent.
Yeah. Wow.
But if it had to be from a game, maybe Azul? That is like a cool looking board, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah.
It'd have to be something that looked cool.
Yeah. Wow. I think I guess I would consider like a tiny little chit from Merchant.
A bird from Wingspan.
Ooh, that's nice.
Yeah. That way, when someone says, "What is that?" you're like, "It's a bird."
It's a bird. It means I'm the start player every time, is what it means.
Oh, that's right. Wasn't there a game that said, like, if you had a tattoo, you went first? I don't remember what it was.
Oh, I'm sure there is. Yeah, anyway.
Alrighty. Chad says, I'm fairly new to the hobby and to fatherhood. My boys are 2 and 4. You guys seem to have really great relationships with your kids and wives, the little he knows. What are some of the positive effects of gaming in relation to your family? He's excited about gaming with his family, and he thinks it will encourage creativity, critical thinking, and a fun way to spend time together. What are your thoughts? What are the positive ways gaming has affected your family? Sounds like a top 10 list, actually. But for me, easily the number one thing that I worry about in this regard about doing is just I don't know the best way to describe it other than making memories. Like, so I just talked earlier about the adventures thing. I will remember that, playing that with my kids. I remember that game. I remember that experience. We had a great time. I want my kids, I could say these games help educationally, and they help them learn to read, and they help them get along and learn how to lose and make decisions. And honestly, I could go on for a really long time. But I think at the end of the day, I want them to remember they had a good time with me when they were a kid playing a game.
One of the things that I have seen as a tremendous positive benefit with my boys is watching them teach games to others. And they are sometimes on their best behavior when at the gaming table. And when they are, especially like my older son, when he is teaching younger kids how to play a game, he is very conscientious about their experience and making sure they understand the rules. And it's really inspiring to see the focus that he had, and his younger brother as well, when teaching a game. And I appreciate that a lot of positive experience and a lot of positive aspects of their personality come through when they're playing games, which is cool. If only they do that when they weren't playing games, that would be great.
Oh, well, me and my wife were talking about this last night because our two of our many daughters, were working together in nefarious ways against the parents, in a very happy and joyful way. And we said, look how well they get together when they want, when they want to get along. And then when Melody went back to college, there was almost like a cheering section. It was very confusing. Jumping to back to the tattoo, Jillian says that we should live stream it if we do it.
Oh.
And one person said a poker chip might make a good tattoo.
That's not bad. Paper money. I'd get a tattoo of paper money. Ernie asks, has a question for me. I have noticed as I play through the Eon's End Legacy campaign that there is a lot of story to read as you go along. Have you ever been approached to do voiceover work for a legacy campaign? Would you want to do something like that, even though it would mean spoiling the game for yourself? I don't know how much I'm able to say, but yes, there was some discussion for a game that they ended up not using me for. I would enjoy doing it, although I guess I'd be disappointed if it was a game that I was really looking forward to playing on my own.
And then he has to listen to his own voice.
And now I have to listen to me. Yeah, I would still do it, though. I think it would be fun to bring the arc to life, like looking back at, say, Pandemic Legacy. If I had been narrating that in some sort of fashion, I would have a lot of fun bringing to life the big twists and turns of that major plot. And yeah, I would enjoy doing that if that was something. So publishers, you know how to find me. Just give me a call. I'm around. For both of us, in honor of the first grand arc of the MCU being completed.
Completed perfectly.
I have two questions. What game or games would you say represent each of the heroes in the MCU?
That's a dumb question.
Second question, which hopefully has different answers. What game would you pull out if you had a chance to play board games with any of these heroes?
I'm going to answer that one because the other one doesn't make any sense.
Whoa.
No, it doesn't. Come on, what game represents that? These are the questions. Okay, look, I apologize. This sounds super mean. I'm sorry, Ernie. Your questions are fantastic. I hate when people say, if you were a fruit, what fruit would best represent you? And I'll be like, I'm a banana because I'm bananas. Doesn't even make any sense. Okay, but the games I would play against them, Iron Man, nothing. He would cheat. Captain America, I think we could have a lot of fun playing pretty much anything because he would be honest and have integrity. Ant-Man would cheat. So I wouldn't play with him. Hulk, I cannot play with someone with anger issues. I'm sorry. Just wouldn't happen. Black Widow and Hawkeye.
Click clack lumberjack with the Hulk.
or like flick them up. Oh, the disc went through the wall again. I think Hawkeye and Black Widow would be a lot of fun to play games with. And Peter Parker seems like he's a nice enough kid. Would be fun to play games with, and he'd be very respectful when playing games. That seems like a nice guy to play games with. I would play a cooperative game with him.
Okay.
Who we got left? We got the Guardians of the Galaxy. Now Peter Quill would cheat. Drax would fall asleep in the middle of the game. Rocket Raccoon would cheat. Gamora wouldn't play the game. She would say it was stupid, and that people who play board games were weak. And Groot, I have not learned his language, so that would be a very difficult thing. I would play some sort of miming game with him, maybe.
So you play code names with Groot?
Yeah, that might work. No, wait. What's the clue? I am Groot. Again? Let's see. Who else is in that? War Machine seems like he'd be okay to hang out with. Thanos would want to destroy half the pieces on the board.
Yep.
I think the Vulture might be an okay guy to hang out with and play games with. He seemed like a decent family man. Loved his daughter.
Yeah.
I'm jumping around through the Marvel universe. Oh, Doctor Strange. No, he would like see the future or whatever, and that would not be fun.
Well, he'd see, a million moves ahead.
Yeah, totally unfun. He would hold up one finger and be like, "This is the game." Like, what? I've gone back and played it 14 million times. Like, ah.
Well, so you have to do one with a lot of randomization because he wouldn't know which of the parallel universes you were in.
You mean if you roll a die, it puts you in 6 different parallel universes?
Yes, I saw that on TV.
That's truth then. Okay. Anyhow, how's that for an answer? All right.
That's a lot of answer. I think Black Widow would do well with the social deduction game.
That's true, but you would never be able to fool her. I would say, I'm not the werewolf. She'd be like, liar. And everyone would believe her.
Exactly. And you don't want to play any dexterity game with Hawkeye. You'd have to pick something.
Oh, my word. Could you imagine he played Crokinole in the center, in the center, in the center? I'm like, all right, we're done with this nonsense.
Yeah, this question should be, what game do you not want to play with each of these characters? Because that's a much easier thing.
I want to play reverse charades with the Hulk.
Iron Man, anything with an app is out. You just hack it. If you became a race in Cosmic Encounter, what would you want your special power to be?
I would want mine to be a randomization power. That's usually when I put random powers in games. Oh yeah, someone mentioned, we didn't mention Scarlet Witch, Black Panther, and Captain Marvel. I'm sure they're all nice people to play games with. Captain Marvel's too busy protecting the universe, though. She wouldn't have time. Black Panther,
Black Panther should play some sort of kingdom logistics game, resource management, and running a fiefdom.
He's super smart, though. He would whoop me. Like, he's the smartest guy in the Marvel universe, I think. And Scarlet Witch, I think she'd be fine as long as I didn't attack Vision. If he was in the same game, I wouldn't have played with both of them.
Yeah, you don't want.
I like attack Vision. She'd be like, "That's it." But I'm sorry. They would probably be too much of a couple thing. Anyway, my racing Cosmic Encounter, I would want to be some sort of randomization thing, using a die, because there's no racing Cosmic Encounter that uses a die currently.
I would want the power of persuasion, where I can just insist that you help me. Well, you're my ally now. Yes, I am your ally now.
All right. That's all our questions, folks. You can send your questions to questions@dicetower.com. Let us know what you'd like to have us answer in the show. You can also come and ask a few questions maybe in the live thing, but we're done with those too. Let's jump to the top 10.
Goody!
Boom ba ba 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 boom. Sherry, 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 Sherry. I'm in way too high of a note. Keep it. Sherry, 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 Sherry.
And I'm back.
All right.
All right.
Let's do it. Yeah, it's true. I should get for people here, I should play the girl from, is it Ipanema or?
Ipanema.
Ipanema. Play that while you're out. What is it about that song that makes it the intermission song?
It sounds a little like hold music.
Yeah, maybe.
It's very pleasant, sort of.
I heard someone singing it one time and I almost fell asleep. Here we go. All right, back in the alphabet. I didn't realize this is going to take us 2 years to do, I think.
It's going to take us a while. In fact, I think on the schedule, we need to catch up. We're going to do another one in 2 weeks, just so that we can sort of get things kick-started again.
Is that why I did that?
I think we had to shuffle some things around, and rather than reorganize everything, we're just going to sort of jump back in.
Got it. Well, we still have not gotten to a hard letter, in my opinion.
No, not one that's like super difficult.
But they're on the horizon. This one
Yay.
here, I'm actually intrigued by some of the choices that the People's Choice had here. And I'm already going to get some garbage about a couple games that are not on my list, but they might have made my list.
Okay.
Yep. All right, let's get going. Games that start with the letter G. Here we go.
My number 10 is going to show up on Tom's list a little bit later, so I'll just be hiding behind its box. Can't see me.
What? This isn't Solid Snake. All right, my number 10 is Grand Austria Hotel. Now, I love these guys, these designers, and great. I will say that this game would not make my list with 4 players, 2 or 3 players. Because with 4 players, I think there's too much downtime in this game. But in Grand Austria Hotel, you are opening a hotel. And you are trying to get people to come eat at your cafe and then check in. I guess the food was that good. They're like, you know what? I like this place. Let's stay overnight. And that's basically the way the game works. And there's a lot of different things. There's a lot of different guests that come, and you're trying to get wine and different foods. And it just, these designers are some of my favorite Euro game designers. And I don't know what it is. This game just has some very pleasant memories for me. Grand Austria Hotel.
Number 9 is Glory to Rome, the Carl Chuddik game that sort of began his obsession with the multi-use cards and the same concepts that sort of travel down to innovation and Motainai and Impulse, those styles of game. But this is the one that sort of started it all. And it's a real shame that this one has not been more available. There's some unfortunateness that happened with the most recent addition to Glory to Rome.
Yeah.
I would love to see this more available so that more people can experience it. It's an interesting game for sure. Number 9, Glory to Rome.
Yeah, this is one that didn't make my top 10. I do like the game. This is also one that's not in the Dice Tower library, right? So I was looking through the games, and I went to buy one, and I was like, oh. It is extremely expensive on the secondary market. So I don't know that I could justify putting it in the library. I'm not sure how often it would get played, to justify that cost. But if I ever see one for a decent price, maybe I'll snag it. But yeah, this is one of those games that defies Vassal's Law, right? Because it's not coming back in print, but there's legality rules reason it's not. But you never know.
There's something that's holding it up.
Not to mention he did make a very, very similar game, Motainai. So that can tide you over, although I think Glory to Rome is a much better game.
Well, if I ever decide to get rid of my copy, I guess I'll call you first.
Thank you, sir. My number 9 is a little game called Greedy Kingdoms. This was originally published in Japan, and then AEG published it in their Big in Japan series. It's just a 2-player game, and you are each playing a character, and some of the characters will cancel out the other characters, and you're trying to outguess the other person, especially as you can upgrade your characters to a better version of that character, and then your opponent knows you have that character in deck. They're going to try to stop that every single time. And I really enjoy how that works. It's a pretty simple concept. Trying to, some of the characters will give you the resources that you need to build buildings, and that's how you win the game. But your opponent knows you're going to build those, and he knows that. So then you play this, but then it's that I know what wine the cup is in type thing, but it works really well. And it's a nice, small, really fun little game, Greedy Kingdoms.
My number 8 is an Uwe Rosenberg game called Glass Road. This one is similar to many of his other resource management style games, but it plays a lot faster. This one has a tremendous pace. It also has these cool dials that as you collect certain resources, they will automatically transfer into better resources. As soon as you get one of each thing, it just goes click, and now you have one of this other thing. You're clearing spaces on your board, putting buildings down, playing cards. It all moves at a really good clip, and I enjoy it. Glass Road, number 8.
Yeah, I'm not as enamored with Glass Road as other people are. Instead, let's talk about a game that's very similar called Galaxy Trucker.
It has nothing. No,
where you will feel like your ship is made of glass.
Yes.
Glass ship, it should have been called. That would have worked, actually.
Yes.
So Galaxy Trucker, which is a really fun game in which you at the same time speedily build a ship and then proceed to watch it get blown apart. Or not. you're trying to build one that doesn't get blown apart, but it's just entertaining and fun, and it's silly, but it does work well, and you have this at least satisfaction of seeing the ship get built, and if it does survive, that's kind of satisfying too. So, my number 8, Galaxy Trucker.
Yeah, this one soured a little bit for me over the past few years. I think I got hit by one too many asteroids that just happened to find the gap in my shields after I was really careful to build really well, and then half my ship is now gone.
All right.
Anyway. Speaking of ships, my number 7 is Gravwell. Tricky little game about trying to escape from an anomaly and slingshotting around your opponents and using gravity and nearby objects to move away or toward them. It has a numerical triggering system. Everybody plays a card simultaneously, and then you go in order. So that object that you were planning to slingshot off of may not be there anymore when you actually trigger your card. It's tricky. Gravwell, number 7.
This is a very underrated, forgotten game, and it shouldn't be. It's pretty cool. I think I just stuck this one in the library, actually. So,
cool.
My number 7 is another forgotten game. This is from Queen. It's a abstract strategy game called Glux. And in this one, you have these tokens that have the opposite sides of a dice on them, so a 1 or a 6. And you need to place them a certain distance away from another token that you have. And then they control regions on the board, and you're trying to control these regions. But a 6 is hard to put on the board because you have to put stuff far away from it, but it controls a spot really well, while 1 doesn't do much, but you can put stuff right next to it. I really think this is a fascinating game. If you ever get a chance, try it out. Glux. Glux.
My number 6 is Good Cop, Bad Cop.
This was my number 11.
Social deduction game that I think I've played the most. What I really like about it, you've got, good cops and bad cops, so the corrupt cops. And the way that's determined is that you're given these loyalty cards at the beginning. You have 3 of them. And whatever the majority is what you are. So if you have 2 good cards and 1 bad card, you are a good cop. But there are ways to exchange those cards around. So one little flip of a card can suddenly change your loyalty as you try and determine who's who and accuse the right people of being the wrong thing. Anyway, I like it. Good Cop, Bad Cop, number 6.
My number 6 is higher on Eric's list. It's actually one of only 3 crossovers, and I'm saying that to cover the fact I have no clever pun.
My number 5 is one of the other 3 crossovers, or not other 2 crossovers. So while I wait for Tom to talk about it, I'll defend the Northern Front.
My number 5 is Godfather, Corleone's Empire. Now, this game, which you could buy last Christmas for a really cheap price at Marshall's all over America. I don't know.
What?
No, you really could. I found it for like $10 in places. It's crazy.
What?
It's a really good game, though. I just think they might have overprinted it, banking on the Godfather theming.
Right.
To work. It's really not Godfather themed. It's more just mobster themed. But this is from Eric Lang. If you like Blood Rage, I think you like Godfather. As you are trying to control different areas in the city and get money from your evil deeds, and then stick that money in this suitcase that you will then reveal at the end of the game and see who has the most money. It's a pretty neat game, very vicious back and forth, but a lot of fun. That's Godfather, Corleone's Empire.
Number 4 for me is Great Western Trail. This is a game about efficiency as you move along a track toward Kansas City, driving your cattle up there, delivering them, basically. You're collecting more cattle into your deck and cycling them through. And it's a lot of efficiency, collection of buildings, pacing, a lot of the things I really like in an engine building style game. I like it a lot. Great Western Trail, number 4.
Yeah, a really good game. Didn't make my top 10, but I do enjoy it. My number 4 is Gukimono, which was originally called Heartland. It is the reworking of the game from Renegade Games. It's a very mean, vicious game in which you are placing tiles down, trying to form different areas on the board. They're domino-style tiles. And when you have one, you can take control of that one. And each turn you're going to get points, but your opponents are then going to try to just ravage it and destroy it as quickly as they can. It's certainly not for the faint at heart, and it doesn't look like it's as mean as it is, and I love it. That's Gunkimono. Or
Gunkimono.
Or Gunkimono. Yeah, maybe.
Number 3, I believe Tom put on a different list, and that is El Grande.
We talked about that, and you don't believe you know.
I'm pretty sure. Yes. Tom put it on the list then, and I didn't because I'm like, that's not an E game.
Come on, you got to admit, it's a tough call. I'm pretty sure most stores would put it on the E shelf.
Perhaps, but Board Game Geek sorts it under the G's. That's all I'm saying. El Grande is a classic in area control. I love it. It is a solid game, and one that deserves to still be in print, and I believe it is. It keeps coming out in anniversary editions, and there's a reason for that. It is a great game. El Grande, number 3.
Excellent game. My number 3 is Good Critters, which is part of the Dice Tower Essentials line, so keep that in mind. But this game, I just love it because it is such a fun social deduction game isn't the right word for it. It's almost like a party game where you just have a certain amount of money. One person's like the mob boss, and they're going to split this money between everybody, and then you vote yes or no. But you can also blackmail people, and so if enough people vote no, then a new person becomes the mob boss, and they split the money. And you keep going until eventually the money gets split. And it's very entertaining. It's fun back and forth. I must have played this game 20 times last year or more. I had so much fun with it. That's Good Critters.
Huh. I need to try this. I actually haven't had a chance to play this.
Did I not drag you into a game of it? Huh. I felt like
No, I have not been dragged into a game yet.
Sorry.
It's okay. Number 2, Guild Hall. The only game I know of where a guy is enthusiastically holding a pig on the front cover.
No. Well,
Guild Hall is a card game about completing sets of like characters in different colors, and the more of them you collect, the stronger their actions become until you get all 5 of the different colors, and then they just sort of disappear, and they become a banked set that you can then use to get points. But there's lots of different versions of Guild Hall. There's a fantasy edition that added more cards. There were 2 sets of the original that have different powers, and the way you mix them up and have them interact is very, very entertaining. Guild Hall, number 2.
There's actually, I think, 6 versions of Guild Hall at this point.
4 fantasy and 2 original, yes.
There might be a 7th.
If there is, I don't know about it.
The fantasy ones are not worth your time, folks. They're not as clearly delineated as the original 2. My number 2 was Eric's number 5. Our crossovers start now, all 3 of them. And that is Ghost Stories, which they're remaking. I'm really intrigued. I don't know what they're going to do to this game, but I'm really kind of fascinated by it. Ghost Stories is one of my favorite cooperative games in which you are some Shaolin monks defending this town against these extremely, and I'm not kidding here, scary ghosts. They're really scary. They just come and they attack you and they do all sorts of mean things to the village, but you got to fight them off. And it's really hard, but it's beatable because I've beaten it several times. I've played it way more than several times, unfortunately. But it's also really straightforward. It's one of the simplest games, I think. There's only so many things you can do, but you really, and it gives you this action feel. I just like it. You must like it also, since it was on your list.
I do. I played this a few times solo. There is a way to do that where you still play with all the monk powers, but you can activate those powers using special tokens, and that can get a little complicated. That's a little less straightforward than playing the standard multiplayer edition. But it's still a very interesting game, difficult as all get out, although sometimes dice are really, really nice to you, as they were a few times with my group. You just sort of sail to victory, and then it's a little weird. Still, Ghost Stories, solid game. My number 1 showed up in Tom's number 6 slot, and that is Kaman's Gizmos. It's an engine-building game that uses a marble hopper, acquiring marbles, using those marbles to buy gizmos, pieces that go into your engine, and then having the synergy to trigger one thing with another thing and pull one marble that then allows you to get another thing and get some points when you trade this for that. And it's great. when you manage to get the system to work and get the marbles you need and the points you need to pull ahead in the game, it's very, very satisfying. Gizmos is my number one.
Yeah, I just like building machines and engines, and I just like that. The marble thing is almost superfluous to me. I like it, but I just like building the engines a lot. And this one does a really good job of that. My number one, shock of all shocks, Eric's number 10, is Gloomhaven, the mega dungeon crawler, which I'm sitting right here, actually. Right here is a Gloomhaven card that, well, for those watching it on the stream, but I have it sitting here. It's like all over the place because I'm trying to play it more, and it just takes up so much space. That's starting to wear on me, the amount of space it takes up, but I do still really like this game. A great dungeon crawl with some really strategic choices, Gloomhaven.
Yeah, I mean, the reason why it's in the number 10 slot is I have to respect it, but I have not played it enough to really position it amongst the other things on my list. I did, however, I accomplished in the last week or so, I built my insert. So I finally got that thing put together and got the game sorted. It took me just as long to sort the game into the insert as it took me to build the insert. So I'm ready to play it.
All right, well,
all I've played so far is a couple of one-shots. So I'm ready to actually do the campaign now.
All right, let's take a look at what the People's Choice says. So your choices are Glory to Rome, number 10. Number 9, Guillotine. This one I was surprised that it made the list, but it's still sold and people like it. This simple game about cutting people's heads off.
Sure, it probably made, a lot of people's list probably in lower positions, so it still shows up.
8, Grand Austria Hotel. 7, Gizmos. 6, Eric and I will both get garbage because it's not on our list, Gaia Project.
I have yet to play Gaia Project.
It's in the Dice Tower library. I'm going to say this a lot. Eric's going to show up at the retreat like, I have 200 games on my list. Like, well, get to work.
Yeah.
5 is The Grizzled.
Ah, okay.
Which is a small little cooperative game. Actually, the version I got in the library is pretty big, but this is one I have not played yet still. 4.
Oh, I have played that one. It's too depressing and difficult. I didn't enjoy it very much.
Got it. 4 is Ghost Stories. 3, Galaxy Trucker. 2 is Gloomhaven.
Huh.
I actually expected that to be number 1, but number 1 is Great Western Trail.
That's neat. I guess I'm happy with that.
I think that's a pretty solid list from the People's Choice. Pretty cool. And that, folks, is that. I think we're going to end here. We appreciate everyone, of course, listening. Don't forget, we have a fantastic and very busy set of guilds over on Facebook. Different groups on Facebook. We have one for Dice Tower West. Dice Tower East, we are starting to announce stuff. Registration for that is around the corner, so keep an eye on our video channel for more information about that. And, that's pretty much where we're at right now. Until next time, I'm Tom Vassell.
I'm Eric Summerer.
And you've been listening to The Dice Tower.
Great!
Did you wait the whole show to say great?
Yes. I kept finding a good moment to jump in and say it, but I didn't.
You know what bugs me is that cereal isn't even that great. It is a lie from the pit of Tony the Tiger.
Well, why do you think they had to say it was great? I mean, other cereals, you simply eat it and you know. They don't have to tell you it's great.
I see.
Advertising.
All right, that's a wrap, folks who are watching. Someone here asked a question. Did you know Sea Rovers is coming to Kickstarter? It was in your top 10 a long time ago and is finally coming. What game is this? Why am I not remembering ever playing a game called Sea Rovers? It was in my top 10. I did a search for it and it's not even showing up on Board Game Geek. Let me look here. Sea Rovers is going to be reprinted by Worthington Publishing. So Sea Rovers, what was it originally called?
Oh, that must be what it is. That it's something.
No, it's called Sea Rovers. It came out in 2006. I don't even have a rating on it.
Yeah, I don't know what they're talking about. I've never heard of it.
I don't think I ever played this game.
It was a different Tom Vassell.
If I did, I can't have enjoyed it that much because it's super forgettable. But I don't have it rated on Board Game Geek. Let me look. Is there a video? No. Oh well, sorry. I feel like I'm disappointing you now. All right. Well, folks, we appreciate everybody who's been watching on Facebook. We're going to sign off from here now. We'll see y'all next time. And if you're coming to the retreat, we'll see you there.
I will too.